as far as ground rules go, there are no ground rules. This is, as one who has like a lot of kids in my household, I understand what it's like having meals and having conversations, and sometimes you got to get up and you got to go and you got to. So that's fine. People have to do that. They get to do that. That's all fine. So yeah, please do what you need to do. Finish up the food if you haven't already. But again, thanks for coming and getting together just to be around tables with each other and also to just hear a little bit of things that's going on. I asked you a couple moments ago. I said, talk about something encouraging, good that you've experienced in your church family the last couple months. Anybody have something? Anybody? Terry? Is you gonna cry, Terry? You just might. All right. That's okay. Terry, tell us. Okay.
I'm blessed by my Sunday school teacher, Dan Campbell. I'm blessed by all the children church.
Blessed by Sunday school teacher Van and children in church. Yeah. Somebody else. Something in the last couple months. David?
What Terry said about Dan Campbell, he's basically giving us his course on the Pentateuch. It's really rich. I'm really learning a lot.
Great.
Thanks to Dan.
All right. Somebody else? Sammy?
I was really blessed by the prayer walks that we did about a month ago now. I work and go to school at SRU, and it was really awesome to be able to go there and the campus and the place I work, like prayed over, and yeah, I was blessed by that.
Sammy, thanks. Prayer walk. Yeah. Darren?
I see Corey. We're in the midst of great change. And Corey is doing such a great job. She has to talk to me every week because there's always something coming up. And she just handles everything. It's just no problem. And as chair of the missions committee, guys, I can't thank you enough for your generous financial giving to this church. I know we have changed how we finance missions. It's now part of the regular budget. But folks, missions is alive and well. It has not changed. And if you were in Sunday school this morning and did not get goosebumps, you got a problem. It is phenomenal that our almost $8,000 thank offering is helping spread the gospel and Christian witness across all of the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union, across Russia. And they're doing it with permission. And it's amazing.
Yep. Karen, thank you about that. I'll second your also thanks to Corey. Corey puts up with Karen every week, puts up with me every day. Woo! One more. Somebody, anybody. Just little.
I am thankful for the confirmation process that we have here at Mount Hope. Not Mount Hope. I said Mount Hope. I have gone back in time for the last week. Everywhere I go, I say Mount Hope. At East Maine, for Melissa's organization and tweaking of it, and for the mentors, for Kelly Smith for being with Emma, and just helping her on this faith journey, and just really, really blessed by that.
Thank you. Yeah, but thanks for all of you sharing. Thanks for all the other things we're talking about around the table. I think it's always good when we get together to celebrate some of what God has been doing among us, some of the things that we count as blessings. It's also good, I think, whenever we get together to really reaffirm what we're really about. As Andy said, what really matters. This is a statement that says what we're really about. The mission of East Main Church is what? To honor God by making more disciples of Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's what we're seeking to be about. And when does somebody stop being made a disciple? Heaven, right? Okay. And so certainly making disciples includes helping us to grow as disciples. That's a huge part of it, is being disciples, right? But I think if we don't emphasize the making more and new, we'll tend to only focus on us, making us better disciples, and we'll probably kind of put that aside. So I think it's always important to hold that before us. Today, I mainly want to share a couple of things today, some changes coming this fall. One that we're going to see this fall, which is the concurrent worship and Sunday school model. And another thing that we're going to see if you vote to approve it, which is reducing the size of our session and also changing the composition of the Board of Trustees to not include session people. And because this morning, as I was kind of rethinking what I want to communicate about that, I got to thinking about, how do I respond when I hear about something changing from what I'm used to, and I hear that kind of for the first time. And it's usually somewhere between, huh, and right? And even when it's just, huh, when I realize that others are going, I say, well, it's probably not even worth it. And so that's usually my kind of reaction when I hear something that I'm not used to, that's coming, that's new and different. And my guess is that's where some of us are with some of these things too. And by the way, there's a kind of huh that's actually okay. It's not an apathetic huh. And that is the kind of people, and my guess is frankly that a lot of the people who are not here today fall into this boat. The people that basically say, you know what, East Main is my church. I like my church. It helps point me to Jesus. It helps me to grow. It helps me to serve. That's all good. And so, if we're going to do things a little different, that's okay. Just, I don't really need to know what the bylaws are. I didn't even know we had bylaws. But that's okay. Just tell me when to show up and what to do, and that's good. I think a lot of people kind of in that boat, and that's okay. But again, for a lot of us, you hear something that's a little bit different that you're not used to, and it's the first hearing of that is something that's not a real positive thing. A couple things I want to keep in mind. First of all, we get that. I get that. Okay? That's part of what these gatherings are about, is to sort of hear things for the first time, begin to think and process it. The other thing I think, please understand that for myself and others that are proposing this, we're not just trying to change things for the sake of changing things, okay? Part of it is, we had the same kind of reactions when we first heard about these things too. But we've had time to really wrestle with this, to really think about, what are the problems we're trying to solve here? And to really kind of consider this and weigh this and pray this. And so this is not something that just come about real haphazardly, okay? So just want you to be sure that you understand that. And really the goal is that we really are trying to help our church to become, more faithful, more fruitful, more effective when it comes to making disciples. First of all, though, let me talk about some things that update you on stuff that we talked about last time that I think we can all agree is good news. And that is where we are in searching for some new staff people, okay? Announced last time we're searching for an associate pastor. That's gotten rolling well. You can see some of what's going on with that. Have some face-to-face interviews coming up, which is a really big step for us. Matt Peterson, Dave Taylor, Sammy Williams, and Larry Smith are the ones we're all, and myself, are doing this. So I would expect, and don't hold me to this, we don't know what will happen with this, I would expect by around mid-July we'll have a person to present to you. And remember, an associate pastor means that the congregation has to approve the call. So you have to approve this person. You have to meet and approve this person when they come, okay? So that's where we are with that. That's rolling along pretty well. And then also, Director of Operations, our Dollar General, Mr. Gold, is as we speak, he's still in Grove City, but by 5 o'clock he expects to be on the road to being a full-time grandpa. Shame on him, right? Yeah. But we are in process, in fact, even very soon, going to be talking pretty seriously to someone about this and have talked to some folks about it, so we hope that gets rolling pretty soon, too. Questions, comments about that? Yes, Jason.
Where is Steve now?
Steve and Sherry are going, Jason, to Tennessee, where both of their children, all 5 of their grandchildren live. So, hard to begrudge somebody doing that.
Beautiful there.
Yeah, it is. Nashville area. So, yep. All right. Well, getting into some stuff here that I really wanted to share with you here. Things coming up. First thing that I mentioned a moment ago here. Concurrent worship and Sunday school. Okay? Again, starting next in the school year, we're going to have a schedule that goes something like this. First worship service, 9:15, the traditional music service, and a Sunday school session. 10:40, second worship service with the praise band, and another Sunday school session. Okay? That's the what. For adult classes, they have to choose which time slot you want to have their classes in. Okay? For children's and youth classes, there will be something offered during both, but likely not the same thing in both, okay? Something it might look like would be at the one service, it would be more kind of like what Adventures in Worship is, and the other something like, starting with maybe a youth worship time and then traditional kind of Sunday school time. So exactly what it's going to look like right now, not clear, but this is what we're shooting for here. A little bit of history of this, where this came from, and then some of why and what we hope to accomplish with this. It's been talked about several times in the past and considered several times in the past, but what really brought this to a head was the consultation report that we had this past fall in September, where this is one of the prescriptions that we got. And the purpose behind all the things in the consultation report, behind all of them, is that they say these are things that we think will help you to be more effective in making new disciples, okay, and reaching people who aren't yet a part of this. And so Session formed a work group around this, and the last time that we had one of these gatherings, I told you about how that work group had decided that we need to kind of slow down the process, take the pressure of a deadline off of that, okay? And so that's where we were when we last talked to you. That work group has met 4 or 5 times, including one time with a wider group of children's Sunday school teachers and children's ministry leaders. And then our last meeting about a week and a half ago, even though some of us are a little bit nervous and uncomfortable with this, we said, we really do believe at some point we need to give it a try. And if we're going to give it a try, it's not a healthy thing to keep talking about it, and talking about it, and talking about it. And the healthiest time to give it a try would be when you return back again with children and youth Sunday school. That when we're going from the period where we don't do that for a couple months to now we having it, that'd be the healthiest time to do it, because the summer is the time we have to plan for what we're going to do for fall Sunday school. And so to have to change what we're planning midstream or change it in the fall would be a lot harder than just to change it when we get started with the next school year. Furthermore, as we talked about this as a staff this past week, and we've been floating this before too, we said it would make for a smoother transition to adjust the worship times that we're going to have in the fall. With the worship times, we think it would make the best sense to even do that before the children start coming back. So to do it, in other words, in the middle of the summer. So what we're going to be doing is starting on July 1st, we're going to be worshiping at those times. Okay? Which is going to mean, and we're going to have some conversations with adult Sunday school classes that continue to meet in the summer, and many of them don't because they have kids, and so the kids aren't meeting stay on either. The adult classes have about the next month to think about when is it that they want to be meeting. Okay? That's a history of how the decision has gotten made and that. But why? What do we hope to accomplish with this? Well, a couple things. First of all, we hope to get both services at more optimal times. And again, it's not going to be true for everybody. If I had my druthers, early church would be at 6:30. Late service would be about 8 o'clock. That would be great. And at 6:30, myself and Brady Steve before the cows, and we'd be there. But that wouldn't work for most people. For most people that talk to you, 9 o'clock feels a little bit too early. 11 o'clock feels a little bit too late. And so we hope to get both services more in the sweet spot at more ultimate times. Also, just less of a scramble between worship and Sunday school. Okay? As it is now, the schedule is for the first service to end at 10, and at 10:05 Sunday school starts. Well, if worship spills over a little bit, well, how does that work? And then the next service of Sunday school is scheduled to end at 10 minutes to 11, but when does it really end? Do kids really get picked up then? If you're going to the second service from Sunday school, can you really get there in time? There's a mad scramble for there. And part of that scramble also means that if you want to actually talk to somebody, like after worship, and you're going to Sunday school, you can't do it. So we hope to end some of that scramble with this. Other pluses here. More time for Sunday school. More time. The 10:05 to 10:50 really probably amounts to what? Like 10:15 to something, right? The time is really squeezed. So there's more time for Sunday school. And also the fellowship time for people between different worship services. I talked about before how right now, if you're going to go to worship and Sunday school, you feel like I can't really talk to anybody like right after worship or right before because I've got to scramble to get from here to there. Okay? And then the last one, which is, again, this is the main reason why the team gave us this prescription. Greater potential to reach unchurched families through our children's ministry. One of the things the consultation team observed, they said, you guys have a really great children's ministry. You've got people who are really committed to this, you've got good leaders, you've got a critical mass of kids. But for that ministry to become a growth engine for your church, as in reaching people who are not yet oriented toward church, but who love their kids, would love to see their kids involved in something like this, what they call the Sunday school sandwich, having Sunday school between two worship services, simply doesn't work. It doesn't work because an unchurched mom and dad are they might be likely a time or two to send their child to Sunday school with your child, right? But they're not going to stay for your Sunday school class that's been meeting together for a long time. They're not likely to come to a worship service before or after that, especially if they have to wrestle with a child who they've never had to do that in church before and don't know what that's about. Okay? The most likely way to reach a person like that is going to be if you offer for the adults, at the same time as you offer your most attractive children's ministry, you offer the ministry that seems to attract the most adults. And for us, that's worship. Okay? So that's kind of the rationale of the side behind this. Now the hope is that they kind of get acclimated to this, and after a while they begin either serving in the other service or going to a Sunday school class themselves. And at that other time, they bring their child with them to worship. Or their child goes to the other thing that's going on for kids then that, again, is different from the thing in the other slot, okay? It's not they're going to go to the same thing twice. Now, more precisely, what it's going to look like on Sunday morning, when classes will meet, when they'll start, when they'll end, and all that is at this point not yet clear. But we have about 3 months to begin to work this out. It's also going to mean that we're going to need to have some more times to get together with children's Sunday school teachers and ministry leaders to find out what's the best way to do this. And also I think we've got to determine some metrics to see whether or not this works. Okay? And metrics, for example, are there unchurched families now getting involved through our children's ministry? What about the overall Sunday school attendance compared with what it is now? Are new leaders and teachers being raised up for these ministries? So we've got to develop some metrics for that too, and that's some of what we have the next few months to be working out. But again, a big reason why we think this is urgent to at least try something like this is because right now, while children's ministry is really good for us, it's working well for our families and our kids, it's simply not the kind of growth engine for reaching new people that we think it could be and should be. Okay? And so we feel that's the urgency that makes it worth trying something here. If it doesn't work out, well, then I think we just kind of got to admit that and say, what else do we have to try? To try to help our children's ministry once again become not just good for us, but something that helps us to reach other people as well. I also believe that for many of our own folks, for many of you, that once we get used to the idea of doing something different, that this change will either feel like very little change or even feel like a positive change for a lot of our own folks. For the folks for whom it really will, as you think it through, be a challenge to do this, what we're asking of you is to say, can you bear with us and give it a try? And give it a try, not just for the sake of giving it a try, but giving it a try for the sake of helping to see if our church can do something that helps us to reach beyond ourselves to our neighbors, to the many people in our community who really aren't plugged into any church at all. So that's some of the why behind this. Let me ask for some questions, comments, and prayers about that. Yeah, Gene. Yeah, actually, this last meeting we had like this, and we shared that. Yeah, we kind of, our best guess at figuring this out has been that in the community that is our school districts, and we know that people outside the school district that worship here too, that about 3/4 of people are not what we would call functionally connected to any church. The other thing, Gene, we pointed out that day too, do you remember what the U.S. Census Bureau says the median age in Grove City Borough is? 26.1. 15 years younger than the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania as a whole, which basically means median whole lot of kids. It means children's ministry is a great potential for reaching people in this community. And just bear that out. If you walk around tomorrow or this afternoon, go to the park, go to County Market, see how many kids you see out and about. Dick.
Bill, first of all, you did a good job laying out the vision and positive. For those people who look at this and feel there's one or two areas that are more challenged, what were those questions that were presented to you in the committee that seemed to raise most often, and how did you respond to those?
Yeah. The biggest challenge is for those families who strongly prefer going to the contemporary worship service with their kids through like 5th grade. That's the biggest challenge for folks in that boat. Now you can still do that because there's going to be something for kids at the other service. But it's likely that, again, these two things are going to look different, that the more traditional Sunday school piece will be offered during the second service. And so for families it's really important that you're there in worship with your elementary age kids. That's the group for whom it's most challenging. That was the biggest reason not to do this. Lynn.
I was just going to make a comment that I remember times when it's not on the hour.
Yep.
That's what I think.
Yeah, a little goofy of a time. That's true. It's not on the hour, I'm going to say, which is true. But you know what? The church behind us, they start at 10:55. CMA has 3 services: 8:20, 9:45, and 11:10. Most churches around here are not worshiping at the same time they did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I mean, these changed. So you're right. I think it'll take a little bit to get used to those times not being in the hour. We did feel like, though, Lynn, was that somehow the sweet spot is between 9 and 11. And you can't have too little time that you can't kind of clear the sanctuary and get where you need to go. You can't have too much time that everybody just goes away. So we thought that the 25 minutes was about perfect to do that. Dick?
I just meant repeat the questions, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, Lynn was just saying the time seemed goofy. It's not on the hour. That's true. But, we'll get used to that, I think. Yeah.
Is the church growing fast?
Our church, no, it's not. That's part of the reason for this.
Is it not possible to have one service and Sunday school after all of this stuff, so that we don't divide people and families and the older people and the younger people? We all have our different visions, and are we too big to do that?
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, same question about couldn't we just have one service and then a Sunday school on time?
And you could rotate traditional, contemporary. I have my preference, but I don't know because you
Yeah.
choose the time slot. So, but I'm still coming.
Right.
So I'm in.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people say we like blended services too.
Yeah.
We like to accommodate both. I mean, and I've had people say, but I don't want to tell anybody.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Yes,
I
say.
have people, I don't want to say anything.
Yeah.
I'm really being honest.
Yep. Got it. Thank you, Wendy.
Maybe you know that.
One of these questions about one service, and my answer to that would be I don't know. Ron, do you know how many people were in worship today? No. Okay. I don't know either. My guess today would be maybe around the 350, 380 range, somewhere there. That sounds about right for those who can't ring it. Did it feel a little full today? Yeah. And again, today, though it felt kind of full, my guess is that we're probably 50 to 100 people fewer than what we average. And that's because of 2 services. We could do it in the summer. We could. We can't do it when the college students are around and fit everybody in. And the other thing is, one of the things that we found over the years too, that you will always reach more people through your worship if you have 2 opportunities to do it than one, no matter how big your sanctuary is. So, yeah, for a lot of reasons, Wendy, at this point in our history, we're a two-service church most of the time, but we do think it's valuable to occasionally do what we're doing today. Yeah, and we're going to do that a couple times, by the way, commercial this summer too. The last Sunday of June, the last Sunday of July, also going to have one service. And one of those, the music will be different. And the other one will be kind of like this, or I think the other one's going to be a mixture. So, but yeah, basically for practical reasons of where we are right now, and also for growth reasons, we really can't most of the time offer one service. However, one thing I'll say to that, though, Wendy, to people who long for that, with this new model, if you go to the one service, you will actually see people from the other service, which right now you don't, because the times are closer together. That's one of the benefits we hope happens, is that people from traditional contemporary worship actually see each other. I expect to see that Welcome Center just full of people between the services. Some people coming, some people going, just people visiting with each other and catching up with people they don't usually see. Any questions about this one? And again, I recognize too, this is kind of a first hearing for a lot of folks. It takes a while to process this, and one reason we throw it out now in this way is so that beyond this moment, you can talk to each other, you can talk to me, we can kind of have continued dialogue about this, okay? Well, can I drop another bomb? No. But let me move on to the other piece that we're looking at that's going to be a change this fall. But this one is only if you agree to it, because again, the proposal is the first part there: change or temporarily suspend portions of our bylaws. You have to vote to be able to do that. You can't do this unless you vote to do it. Okay? So what we are going to be asking you in the fall is to for a season, either suspend for a season or to change our bylaws so that we can reduce the size of session and change the composition of the Board of Trustees. And the idea for this is to move more toward a model where session governs, session gives boundaries, session gives vision and direction, but where staff basically leads the operational functions of the church. And let me give you just a picture to envision what you think session would look like with this, and why, and some of the why we hope to gain with this. What we envision with this is that there'd be maybe 6 to 9 elders who, again, you elect, because that's what happens in Presbyterian churches. You elect your leaders. You elect the elders. Their main job is to keep the whole church on task for its mission, right? Making disciples. And specifically to hold accountable me, to hold accountable the senior pastor for the church meeting various goals related to that mission. Likely, these 6 to 9 elders would be meeting about twice per quarter. Once kind of as we do now, like a 2-hour evening meeting. Once probably a longer half-day meeting over a Saturday. And what we do in those meetings is, worship and prayer, which we typically would do anyway. We'd be reading, studying, and discussing different books, different articles related to our mission and vision, particularly those areas where we're finding it challenging right now. For example, something that we would have wanted to dive into and read about is a book about assimilation, about how do you assimilate newcomers. That was the big issue I talked about at the last one of these. That's something our church is weak in, and we need to get better in, and we feel that our elders especially need to understand that. Need to understand what the issue is and what to do about it, even though they won't be the ones working out the system that we do. They still need to understand this, okay, and be able to communicate that to others. And then the real key, the big thing, and by the way, for that portion of the meeting too, where we're reading and studying, things together, I'd be very open to inviting others in the congregation who are interested in those issues to come and to be a part of that part of the meeting as well. So if we're hitting on an issue like evangelism would be another one that we ought to do. How to recruit volunteers and leaders would be another one. If these are issues that you're interested in, and the elders are going to be reading about this, we'll let that be known. We'll say, this is what we're reading. If you want to come to be part of that, great. Love to have you part of that conversation as well. But the mainstay for these meetings would be, and also perhaps doing this outside of the meetings in pairs or individual elders, is that at each meeting we meet with, say, 2 or 3 different ministries of the church to have a conversation with those ministries. So say one of the longer meetings, on the Saturdays, you'd have 3 groups come in for a half hour each. You'd have the community dinner leaders come in. You'd have the deacons come in. And maybe something smaller. Maybe the leaders of the middle school Sunday school class come in. And the point of that conversation would be to kind of to evaluate and say, hey, how are you doing? What are you doing? How are you doing? How is your ministry part of helping our church's overall mission of making disciples? What resources do you need from us? How can we be praying for you? And also, we know what groups are coming up, and so there'd be some preparation for that, so that kind of conversation could be focused. But the idea is this is part of Session's job of, one, figuring out who the church is, knowing who we are, but also helping the whole church stay on task for its mission. Okay? And frankly, for conversations like that, you don't need a large group of people. It's not helpful to have a large group of people. 6 to 9 folks are plenty for that. But what you do need more of with this is you need more leaders who are there to manage and run various ministries, like the mission committee, like the finances and property concerns, like different aspects of Christian ed, women's ministries, caring ministries, like our deacons. And something I've observed, frankly, over the years is that many of the people who come to be elected as elders and serve on session, that's really more what they want to do. That's the kind of stuff they want to do. They want to help lead some kind of a ministry. And so the idea is, great, we're going to let them do that. Basically, those folks will become de facto sort of volunteer staff who are charged to run those and lead those various ministries. They have the responsibility and the authority to do it. Within the boundaries that session sets, most obvious boundary being a budget. But within those boundaries, all the kind of decisions about how that ministry is run, they don't check in with session. They just do it. They have the authority and the responsibility to do that. And as the leader of our staff, I'm the one responsible to make sure that they're doing their jobs. And so if the session member has a problem with, what's going on with the mission committee, why are we supporting this person? We're supporting this person less than we used to. The session's problem's with me. They don't go to Karen, the mission committee, and say, why are you doing this? I'll either know the answer, or I'll say, hey, Karen, question came up about X, Y, Z. And then Karen will say, oh, this is why we're doing it. And I'll come back to the elders and say, guess what? This is why we're doing it. Mind your own business. Let them do it. Right? It's within the boundaries they've set. They're not going over budget. It's within the consistency of our vision, values, and philosophy, how we want to do things. So we let them do it. Okay? Here are the positive differences that we hope would result from this. One of them is decisions get made in a more timely manner. Okay? That's important. And also just who is responsible for what is clear. When a board or a committee is responsible for something, who's responsible for it? And when it's not getting done right, who do you call about it? And can you fire a committee or a board if they're not doing a job? Can you replace them? You really can't. It clarifies who's responsible for what. And also, we hope, just clear connections between what we're doing and our mission. Again, that's in part because Session's job is to be encouraging ministries in their mission. So we're thinking about it in that way. We're thinking, okay, how is what we're doing related to making disciples? And let me see if I can give you an example of a way that we're already, just an instance where we're operating this way that I think works well. That we're probably in arrears for doing what we did. Okay? So don't tell anybody. Don't tell me. About a month ago, we got a check in the mail. We got a gift from the state of Blaine and Dolores Hubs. It was great. It's about it's been $1,300 gift that we got. Okay, and in the way that the old way, in the way it's supposed to work, what should happen with that is it gets opened, by a staff person, by our secretary, who then gives it to our bookkeepers. Our bookkeepers are, what do we do with this check? I better call the president of trustees and say, what do I do with this check? So they call, it's Ryan Thomas right now, they call Ryan Thomas. Ryan Thomas is probably in his truck driving between jobs. He says, what do I do with this check? He goes, I don't know. Right? And he thinks about it a little bit, and he says, okay, well, just put it in a memorial fund, and we'll figure out what to do with it at our next meeting. So he goes to a trustee meeting, and at the trustee meeting, what would happen there? Well, maybe he wouldn't even remember it because they're doing other things. Like they're worried about the floor in the children's section. They're worried about the boiler. They're worried about the overall expenditures on utilities, which is a whole lot more than $1,300. Okay, so maybe the memorial fund. What happens to it? Well, it sits there for 10 years until some kind of need arises that needs some money that's not in the budget, and somebody says, oh, there's money in the memorial fund. And so it goes for something like that. Now maybe what would happen there is instead of just that, maybe the trustees also say, hey, you need to tell Session about that. And by the way, it'd be a really good thing if Session sort of heard is just sort of an item of information, because, hey, by the way, elders, guess what? Remember Blaine and Dolores got a gift from their estate. Isn't that great? And says, yeah, that'd be great. But one way Session may hear that would be to hear, we need to make a decision about this. The 15 of us need to make a decision about this. And so maybe after 10 minutes or so of conversation, it kind of gets tabled to another meeting so you can make a decision about it. Or maybe they just agree with the trustees and say, okay, we'll put it in the memorial fund where it'll sit for 2, 3, 10 years. And then sometime it'll be spent, and it'll be spent in a way that somehow blesses East Main Church, which is not a bad thing, because Blaine and Dolores wanted to use the money to bless East Main Church, right? Here's what did happen. Gift comes in. Corey opens it. Corey shows it to me. He says, I don't know these people. It's before my time. I said, I don't know who they are. What are they about? I said, you know what? I didn't know them real well either, because they moved before I came here. But I did know them a little bit, because they came back from time to time, and I ended up burying them too. And I said, those two, Blaine and Dolores, I didn't know them real well. But what I do know of them is they love mission. They were really into mission. And the other thing I know too is that this year, with some of these changes that we're going through, our mission committee, they've been real troopers in terms of trying to do a significant ministry with less resources. And so I bet it's not going to make their day, but it might be a real encouragement to the mission committee if we just said, hey, here's $1,300 more to spend on mission. Now, I didn't just want this to be in my own head, though, okay, because I didn't know them real well, and also, I wanted to check with somebody else who knew them better than I did, and also understand about our budget and our funds and all that stuff. So I talked to our Director of Operations, Mr. Gould. He confirmed. He said, yeah, Blaine and Dolores love mission. That's what they were all about. And he said, yeah, that'd probably be a really good thing for our mission committee to have a little extra money to spend this year. Hey, I'll tell the bookkeepers how to work this out, and I'll tell Karen, give her a note about that, and we'll, done. Okay? By the way, interesting follow-up to that. This past week, Mission Committee finds out about an unforeseen need they didn't know about, that they were real excited about, and decided to fund it to the tune of about $1,300. Okay? So that's what we did. Now again, that's illegal. That's probably not the way we're supposed to do it now. We should have done it more the way I talked about it. I think it's a better way. I think that's as Andy said this morning, that's uncomplicating the simple, right? So that's the kind of thing we'd like to see be able to more freely happen. I was going to share with you a sort of a negative example of a decision that is sort of in process that first was presented to us about 6 months ago, and it's kind of in committee process at this point, when really it's pretty clear what we're going to end up doing. The issues are pretty simple. Could have been settled in about 15 minutes on the phone from a staff person, but it's kind of bogged down in committee at this point. Okay? So that's what we're hoping to accomplish with this, just to really streamline how we make decisions. Now, before I make comments, one thing I want to share about this, when we talked about this model of doing church governance in the cohort group of pastors that I'm involved with, interesting comment was made there. The fellow said this, he said, most systems in churches for decision making, the assumption is that leaders, you can't trust them. And so you better have a system that kind of manages or controls them, right? So this system, though, assumes that leaders can be trusted and that ministry is risky. And by risky, I think what we mean is that the landscape for making decisions is constantly changing, right? And so when you try to make decisions in real time, you're going to sometimes make mistakes. You are. And, but again, you've got to make decisions. And so the best thing to do is to give leaders freedom within clear boundaries in which to operate. I would say, by the way, also, when boards and committees make decisions, often, they either don't make decisions or slow down making decisions. That can be a mistake too. Okay? And sometimes boards and committees make wrong decisions, just as other leaders do too. So But again, this is what we're hoping to gain with this. Let me just, at this point, ask you about some questions. Again, this is something you'll hear more about. You'll get a specific motion, within a month of when we have a meeting to vote on this. But right now, questions, comments about
Yeah,
this?
2 questions.
Peter, yeah.
First of all, you have to bear with me, I'm an old-time Baptist, so bear with me. But we have elders, we have assessors, and 10 words or less, what's the deed group, what's up to leading and coordinating? Is it elders or is it assessors? I'm confused.
Oh, Peter's asking about elders in session. The session is the group of ruling elders who are right now leading. If you're elected an elder, you're always an elder, but you're not always on the session. The session is the ruling board
Okay.
in Baptist parliaments, right?
Next question then, we have a whole bunch of groups, committees, which is good, but for coordinating purposes, I don't know if we do or not, could you have a member from session sitting in on that particular committee? So the committee can say, what's going on with them? They say, well, I was in the board, and they explain to you. Or session people going, what are the missionaries doing? He just go, I was there, and they explain some sort of coordination that way.
Well, the kind of what we want the session to know about and support, for example, the mission committee, is we want, as I talked about, we want the session from time to time to ask groups like the mission committee to come and to speak to the session and to say, hey, what are you doing? How are you doing it? How does this fit with our vision, philosophy, and values? How can we help you to do it better?
So once in a while, but not on a monthly basis.
Correct. And the reason why, Peter, is because what we don't want the session coming in and telling the mission committee how to do things. Because we believe the mission committee they're the ones who are passionate about mission. They're the ones who should decide how to spend the money that session allocates to them, how to spend that in the best way, how to promote that in church in the best way, again, within the boundaries of which the pastor sets in terms of time. The mission committee would probably love it if we had, all mission all the time. And I say, nope, you get 3 minutes once a month. So, but no, we don't want the session getting involved too much in telling the how-tos of doing the ministry. We want the mission committee, which is de facto mission staff, to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Ron.
Your slide said that we will either suspend or vote to amend. What are the pros and cons of suspending versus just amending to change the number of elders?
Yeah, well, I'll say that the reason that we're probably going to propose suspending as opposed to amending is because eventually you do have to amend, and you have to have something in place. But we want to know that what we have works first. And so we think it might make more sense to say, this section of the bylaws that deals with the number of elders and when they're elected and all that sort of thing, we would like to kind of suspend that, hold that in abeyance for 2 years while we work out how we want to really do this. And then in 2 years, you change it to what it is you want to do. Because this might not work. If it doesn't work, you don't want to have it codified and have to change it again. So that's the reason that we're leaning towards suspending rather than just changing right now. And some people have thought, oh, but wait a minute, that means there's no rules on suspending. There are. We're telling you what we think we're going to do, right? Nobody's going to totally run amok. So. Wendy.
Are any of your session meetings open to the church members?
Yeah, they're all open.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you post when they have their meetings or anything?
Yeah, we generally, it'll be like on the calendar in the worship folder, but it's not, it's not like I don't verbally announce it all the time.
There's not a certain date or time or meeting place?
The next one is going to be in here on the 26th of June at 7 o'clock. That we know.
Is there agenda?
We don't post the agenda.
Have an
before.
agenda for your meetings?
Mhm,
Just
yep.
like a regular, you run the meeting,
Yep.
normal call and
Yep.
votes and so forth?
Yep.
And so we have how many now, session numbers?
15.
And you want to go to 6?
6 to 9. Yep. Yeah. Again, particularly we think that some of the kind of conversations we'd like elders to have happen better with fewer people. And also, some of those 15 we hope will become, as I'm saying, like de facto ministry staff that will actually be running ministries.
Or committees?
That would be,
Different
right,
committees?
right. Yeah, see, like Karen is the chair of the mission committee. In this thinking, she's really she's the mission committee staff leader. But she's the chair of the mission committee. It's
And a session number?
not, no, she's not.
Can't be both.
In this way, no, you wouldn't be both.
Your system, you can't be someone
Right.
over the missions and come to the session meeting and say, this is what we're doing, and then look and see what the other people are doing, and you know.
The best way I could put this to describe the difference would be to say that the session is always pushing the what and the why. This is our mission. This is our vision. The committees and the staff people work out the how-tos. Okay, this is our vision. You're giving us $115,000 to spend a mission. We're going to run with that. We're going to figure out how to best do that. We're not going to check in with you session and ask, is this okay? Who's going to do that?
Well, it kind of sounds like if they give you more power, is what Steve Gould said, give you more power to do the things you did in this speech
Mhm.
on Sunday, correct?
It-
You would be like the operations of the directors too, wouldn't you?
One of my titles, de facto still is, or de jure is head of staff. This makes that kind of de facto. Yeah, I'm the head of the staff. So yeah, if you know, if something's going on in youth ministry that's not right, you know, Melissa and I have a serious conversation about that. But the session doesn't go to Melissa and say, you know, why aren't you doing this? I do that.
Well, I
It's my
think
role.
I like your idea, how you said you will know everything that's going on and you will answer to the session.
Correct.
Where it's
I'm actually more
happening,
accountable.
right?
Yeah, I'm actually more accountable. Session, real accountability from
I
me to
think
session.
that's a good thing, and I don't know if everybody's hearing that
Okay.
way. I maybe feel like you know what's going on, and you'll be the person that, if they have a question, they'll come to you.
And it also, in all the other ministry areas, will be clear who you do go to with the question. It's not, we'll go to the elder in charge of, no, it's, you want to know about mission, go to the chair of the mission staff first, or go to Karen. She'll tell you. You want to know what's going on in caring for people, go to the president of the deacons, Tam will tell you. You know, it'll be much clearer who does that, as opposed to, we'll talk to the chair of this committee who's different than they were 6 months ago, will be different 6 months from now. It's a little more clear who's responsible.
If you would put that out to the church people, like a little breakdown of how work can improve, would it not, we accept that better? If we can, some of us like to see.
Yep. Yeah,
see the
that's.
structure. you
Yeah,
know?
this is sort of the first hearing of this. In the next 3 months, that's kind of the sort of thing that I need somebody who understands how to do that better than I do to help us do that, help express it in great ways.
Because I told in the last meeting, I said, if you educate us and we know what's going on, those of us who want to know, then we're going to accept things more.
Yeah.
Or we might have an idea to give you that would help too. You never know.
And Wendy, I'm glad you said, that's the purpose of these gatherings, is really, you know, we're telling you things 3 months out. And I do hope that for some of it, yeah, it's you're getting adjusted to these things. Some of it, you're going to say, you know what, I got an idea of how to make that even better. And, you know, we hope that some of that stuff bubbles up as a result of these.
We might even get some people involved.
Yep, that's also the hope. And in fact, if one of the things I plan to do that didn't get to is put it on a piece of paper some of the different kind of ministries, different volunteer roles that are going to spawn off of some of these things that we hope some of you will
I
take up.
appreciate the openness you have, and anytime I have questions, you talk, you know that. I appreciate that.
Well, thanks, Wendy.
You know, maybe some people just want to come to church and that's all they want to do. But I think
Right.
as we move forward, we need to, as we can understand these things and get educated to why we're doing things
Yep.
the way we are. And why we need to change.
Appreciate
So
that.
I appreciate that, Bill.
Wendy, thank you. I want to get,
Real quick, I just appreciate what you and the session are trying to do, Bill. This is tough. And the analogy I give to all of you is the Amazon effect. If I'd asked you 10 years ago how many people heard of Amazon or bought from Amazon, very few hands would go up. If I said that today, everyone would. Ministry is dealing with the same thing. Things are changing rapidly and quickly. And the organizations that are able to adapt to that, have this kind of information and move and be nimble are the ones that are going to survive. Because Amazon has crushed a lot of organizations and a lot of churches are going out of business. And so I don't necessarily want to relate the ministry direct to business, but there's a lot of similarities. And I just want to thank you, Bill, and the session for what you're attempting to do. Make some of these changes. They're not all going to go smooth. That's the way it is. But I think the best that we can try to come alongside you all and support you in this, I appreciate it. I just want to tell you.
Dick, I appreciate that. Thank you. And the parallel Dick is raising about changes in the business world, changes in the church, I think that the strong parallel there is, Dick, is that things are changing rapidly, and therefore your decision-making process can't be slow. Yes, you have to step back. You have to seek wisdom. You can't just do things like this. But it has to be. You have to be able to make decisions clearly and not get bogged down. Yeah.
In terms of what we were just talking about, is there going to be a clearly laid out chain of command? Are you going to have somebody who's like your second fiddle? Only because I see that as one person, it's going to be very difficult to manage this giant umbrella of stuff. And you may be, I don't know, you may be off site somewhere, or how's that going to work, and is it going to be laid out first, second, third? Does that make sense?
Right. Teresa's talking about it's going to be laid out clearly, kind of what the change.
Like your assistant managers.
Yes, absolutely. And again, and sort of, yeah, I'm still going to take days off and go on vacations and all that kind of thing. I'm not going to be the king of the universe with this, but it's going to be very clear. But what it does mean more so than is yeah, really in terms of are we being effective in hitting our missional goals? That's a me issue. Now, again, a lot of that I'm going to say, well, in order to do that, like with children and youth, we better make sure we have really good people in children and youth. And so I make sure of that, okay? And I make sure those folks are motivated and know what they're doing. I'm ultimately responsible for how this church goes in this thing, yes. But also, I'm going to often thrust that back to everybody. Because whose job is ministry? It's the congregations, that's right. The congregation does ministry. My job is to be a leader, but all of our job is to do ministry, right? To do ministry with our neighbors, to do ministry within the church. That's all of our job. And so a lot of my job is to try to motivate that and help that to happen. But yeah, that is one of the things, Teresa, that I said I hope happens with this, is that it's just very clear who's responsible for what. And that you know that better than you do right now. I'm ready to do this till the cows come home, but I would like to kind of, I'm sensing body language here. Some of you cows do want to go home. I'm sorry, I'm a cow too. I'm not calling, I just called you all cows. Ooh. But I do want to just, I'd like to, we pray. This has become, since about January, kind of a theme verse for my life, especially the last part, where Jesus says, apart from me, you can do nothing. I've read that for years. I guess it's really dawned on me much more in the last 6 months that Jesus really meant that. He really meant that. He really meant that we cannot do anything of consequence without abiding in it. None of this is going to work without that. Church doesn't work. Churches fall apart. That's just becoming really, really clear to me. So let me close in prayer, and then again I'll take as many questions. I'll be here and take as many questions. Dan, I know you have one, and we'll do that first, but let's pray. Gracious God, I thank you, as your word says, that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And Lord, as things change, sometimes I find that, and we find that, it's unsettling, sometimes threatening. We have a lot of questions, a lot of things that are unknown. We thank you, God, that we are always anchored to you, the one who is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And we ask that you give us grace to day by day be as this portion in your word in John says, to be abiding in you, to see staying connected to you, to doing what we need to do to strengthen that connection we have with you. But Lord, you're the one who enables us to bear fruit. So I pray that for each of us and for us together as a church family, that you draw us to you in such ways that not only are we built up and encouraged ourselves, but that we can bear much fruit for you and for your kingdom. We ask this in your name, Lord Jesus. Amen. Yeah, Olivia, for any kind of questions, comments,